time in which we've been working on a lot of recommendations, a lot of articles, reading through everything and working on this. And it just took us until now to come up with a solution and bring it back to you.
Team, questions? I'm out of questions. If you have a question, now would be a time, or you can save it till caucus.
So it's voluntary in all levels, elementary, middle, and high, or just middle and high, or?
So what I would say is it's voluntary at all levels until it becomes an issue with health, safety, and welfare. I mean, if nobody volunteers, that principal's got to do something with those students. I don't foresee that. I mean, our teachers are out there for the children and they're there to serve the children, and I don't foresee that being an issue. But I think that we always have to put it out there that if there's for some reason some class that none of the teachers want to do it, you have to do something.
Yeah, I think that's to your point. I think I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No.
You finish. It's often not voluntary in practice at the elementary level. Do I understand that right as a non-elementary teacher?
Well, yeah, but I've never heard, I can't say that I've heard a complaint because the teachers they plan together and they are willing to take that. I was just.
Because I'm going to be sick at some point, and you would hope that if the same thing happened, that somebody would do for me what I'm willing to do for your
Do have
class.
one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
So another at the elementary level. So if, let's say, Mill Creek has 10 teachers on a grade level, we split that just 1 or 2 kids into each class. Southwoods has 4 teachers on the grade level, we split into 4. That's still okay? Or are we thinking we only want it to go to so many teachers?
So we have that in there, but we felt like based upon kind of the principal, they know what a teacher can handle.
Okay.
You have a brand new teacher that's right out of college, maybe they can only handle 2 more. You have somebody seasoned like yourself, maybe you can handle 4. And then I think it really depends, because we had up to, but then we thought, if you have a bunch of brand new teachers, it might not be easy to put a bunch of kids in those classes. So we really feel like it's kind of a principal designee decision. Thank you.
I have a question.
Good.
I know that we've had an increase in people being out since we've gotten back from winter break. But the problem didn't just start when we got back from winter break. I know at our school, we get emails at least twice a week saying that they need coverage. So what is your reasoning for not including last semester? Because it was still a problem then. And there were still plenty of teachers who gave up their planning periods to cover classes.
Mm-hmm. So could every teacher in this district, number one, let's say, could every teacher in this district go back and record every single time that they covered for somebody? I don't know if that would be possible. The date, the time, the class, who was out, things of that nature. Could the principal, and with everything that's going on, could the principal also then sign off on that and approve that, number one? And then number 2 is it's taken us this long to bring this forward. You've been covering for each other during this whole pandemic, and so we now have a start date in which this will be
But
covered.
the argument of you've been doing it this whole time doesn't mean that they still shouldn't get paid for it. Like,
So
they're
we're-
still making the
Correct.
sacrifice.
So our offer today is as of January 6th.
Okay. So if we were to say, because I know for Creekside, like the email gets sent out, they have to email back to admin. So if a person could find all of their emails where they've emailed back and actually covered a class, could they submit that paperwork and get paid?
If you're going to counter offer, you need to work through Justin and counter offer in a caucus.
I'm just saying hypothetically.
I'm not going to answer
Okay.
that question. And I don't mean that to be rude. I'm just letting you know what's in writing right now, and it's
It's a good
January
question.
6th.
Well, it was October though. I mean, that's the point. Go ahead.
Just to be sure. So in middle and high school levels, most of the time you have one planning period, right?
Mhm.
Is there an opportunity for somebody to cover more than one period? I know for my specific position as a physical education teacher, there's most times we don't get a substitute to cover, and I cover another teacher's class the entire day. So I'm teaching double classes for the entire day. Am I paid 1 hour? Would that work? Or is that kind of something that we would have to work out?
So as of right now, the MOU states, right, classroom teacher. I don't know that we included resource. I'm going to call it resource. Forgive me if I don't mean that in
Yeah, no,
any offensive. So if there is something that you would like to counter, a way that you think that we could
So by by your
solve that.
definition, classroom teacher would not include any resource
arts, right,
positions.
art,
Okay.
media.
But that's
PE,
an
things
elementary
like that.
term, is it not? But like, you're not a resource teacher, are
I'm an
you?
elective teacher. Yeah.
Correct, elective, but
You're
But he's a classroom
specifying
teacher.
literally desk in the classroom. That's what that's what this means. Just desk in the classroom if you teach, but art would be different because they have desk and, okay, well,
Well, you would get at least the planning period under
At
this
least one.
proposal.
That's why I'm asking if there's multiple.
And then there's another level that we need to
discuss.
discuss.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
that was a good question.
All good questions. All right.
So I'm going to start out with this one, and then I'm going to probably need Kristen Bozeman to help us with this one. 2, 3. If you need another one, let me know. Let's see if we gave you enough. Yes, okay. So, all right, ROTC. I'm going to try and explain this, and then Kristen will have to jump in. Okay, but what normally happens is we have a contract with the military for each ROTC program, and the military will reimburse the school district for half of what the MIP is. Okay, and the MIP is what the retirement is for the employee, right? So if we do have circumstances where maybe the teacher, the ROTC teacher has 23 years of experience, we bring them in at the top of the scale, but their MIP is less than that.
They're always
Okay.
retired they're always retired military people? Okay.
So we pay them more than their MIP. We pay them based upon the negotiated agreement, always. Okay, they earn pay for performance, all of it. Sometimes what happens though is that the employee's MIP is larger than our salary schedule. So we pay the employee based upon the salary schedule because we always want to make, because they're part of your bargaining unit, we always want to make sure that we pay them accordingly. And then every quarter, we have to calculate out a supplement to offset and give them the increase that they're supposed to receive, that additional amount. And so truly what we're end up doing is we're not giving this person the salary that they should be receiving at the time that they should receive it. We're giving them their salary based upon what the placement schedule says, or based upon pay for performance, or whatever their salary is. And then 3 months later, we give them a supplement. Okay, you with me?
Not really, but maybe it'll come together.
So, all right,
Okay.
let's say your salary, think about your salary in your head,
Okay.
but you have a letter from the military because you're teaching for us, and we should be paying you $10,000 more a year. Actually, I'm gonna make it 12, it'll be easier for me.
Okay, so my retirement,
Uh-huh.
when you say your salary, I would be thinking about my military retirement.
Correct.
Okay.
And let's say we are supposed to pay you $12,000 more a year than the salary schedule, even if you're paid for performance. And what you make today, we are required by our contract to pay you $12,000 more a year.
Because of the entry placement schedule.
Mhm.
It's
Or if
12
we've been
more than
paid-
my retirement.
No, because the documentation from the military says you're going to pay Justin this amount. But Justin's in the bargaining unit.
Okay.
So we set Justin's salary based upon what the negotiated agreement says. So if Justin gets paid for performance, he's been working here, he keeps getting basic pay for performance, this and that. His salary is still $12,000, yes, less than what the military wants us to pay him. So we pay you your salary, Justin's salary, and then every 3 months, we pay you what we need to pay you to kind of true up your salary.
The
So we pay you
difference.
$3,000, and then 3 months later, we pay you $3,000, and then 3 months later, we pay. So by the end of the year, we have paid you according to the negotiated agreements and according to what the military says that we have to pay you. Okay? So needless to say, this does create a bone of frustration for our ROTC teachers, which we certainly understand. And it also becomes difficult for HR, who's trying to make sure that every 3 months, they remember to pay this person this additional supplement that they have to pay. Okay. So we've been trying to come up with a solution so that we can compensate our junior ROTC instructors accordingly. So, Kristen, yeah. So what we would like to do is we would like to set their salary in accordance with what their minimum instructor pay should be. So Justin, again, using that same example, if your salary should be $12,000 more, I mean, either way we're paying it, we feel like we should set your salary at what that should be. And you should earn it every 2 weeks, just like your normal salary, not waiting until the 3rd month to get what you should be earning. We will review and adjust their salary as appropriate in January or in conjunction with the timelines for military pay raises. So here's the other problem. The Army may give raises in January, the Navy may give raises in March. You know, who else?
Does
do we
that
have?
happen? I'm pretty sure. I don't remember getting, I'm a veteran, I don't remember getting paid at a different time or raises at a different time. We all got it, but
Okay.
it's just
So
experience.
here's what I will tell you. We don't always get the documentation right away, which unfortunately is another.
And for the record, that's because you were active duty.
And not retired?
Exactly.
Okay, so the retirement goes up, different branches at different times. Got it.
And it gets processed differently.
Okay. I'm getting there. I'll wrap
Okay.
my head around it.
Okay.
I might need a concrete example, but
So it's the instructor's responsibility to ensure that the district receives notice of the changes that come from their branch of service. So they do get documentation. Again, some of the struggle is sometimes we will receive phone calls, rightfully so, from our teacher that says, hey, I was supposed to receive, you gave me this amount, I should have received this amount. And we don't have documentation from the MIP. And so then we go round and round, we may call the Army, the teacher may call the Army. So we're just asking for some assistance from the teacher with getting that documentation so that we can get people paid. Salaries of junior ROTC instructors, which are higher than the value of the MIP, will not be reduced as a result of this MOU. So again, I have right now the top of our salary schedule is 23. So if you have 23 years of service with the military, okay, but your retirement, your MIP is less than that. The salary we're supposed to pay you for the contract with the military, we are paying you at the higher rate because you're a teacher of this district, and we are going to pay you according to the negotiated agreement. Okay. So again, this is not to harm. This is to try to help. In the event that the junior RTC instructor's MIP is less than the amount, then they would receive a place on the instructional salary schedule. The junior RTC instructor shall receive the higher salary. That's what I was just saying. And then all other terms and conditions of the negotiated agreement shall apply equally to junior ROTC instructors.
how many people are we talking about? Approximately?
3, 6, 9. Is it 12? Thank you.
7?
Yes.
Okay. So for 7 people, correct me if I've got the synopsis wrong. For 7 people, the way they get paid is the problem.
Yeah.
Waiting for a supplement
Mhm.
for the difference to be made up.
Correct.
So if I do 23 years in the military, you're giving me 23 years of experience according to the placement schedule?
Mhm, because you are teaching junior ROTC.
Okay, so let's say my retirement's $30,000.
Yes.
I come in at 55.
Yes.
You're required to pay me 25. Am I so far so good?
Start over again. What
My
was the
retirement's
30,000?
30. That's what my retirement is.
Your retirement is 30. We're required to pay you 30.
Okay, so you're required to pay that, and the difference between that and what, 55?
So
What's
let's
the-
do
what's
this
the
again.
problem?
So hang on. Let me do this again with your example. We're required to pay you 30. There's 2 examples here. With 23 years of experience, we're going to pay you 55. We don't owe you anything else.
Right.
The issue is when you reverse that, it's when we owe you 55 and the salary schedule is 30. then we owe you 25. If the military says I have to pay you more than what the salary schedule says, we aren't adding that to your base salary and paying you every 2 weeks. We're waiting in for 3 months and then we pay you your supplement.
So is the problem for someone with a very high retirement?
Yeah.
Okay, so of the 7, how many have this high retirement that caused this problem? All 7?
No,
It's 7.
No. it's
5
5.
of, so 5 of the,
Right.
But 2 of our art students are on professional services contract, so their salaries were, they've been around for a while. But
Right.
5 of the 7.
5 are basically new
Newer.
annual contract that are newer.
And so we always, and so if you could say, well, why haven't you done this before? Well, we always felt like we would break the contract if we paid somebody more than what the negotiated agreement said in their salary. And so, I mean, you could look at me and say, Kathy, really but we felt like we should have some kind of documentation. We don't feel like we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing. We would just want to pay these people when they earn it. And I
instead
think
of
they
waiting,
would
they have
like
to
to
wait
be
till the end of the semester or the end of the year?
3 months.
We have to wait 3 months?
There's nothing, because I was just looking, there's nothing in the contract right now that addresses the additional.
No.
Okay.
Well, look at me, 55, 50. That's what I meant. All right.
Okay.
Anybody have questions?
Did answer part of it, but I just wanted to verify. So this is only for them because they're actually teaching the junior ROTC. It doesn't affect any retired veterans that have gotten hired to become instructional personnel with the county. It's
Correct.
only
So-
these because they're teaching.
Junior ROTC, correct, because we would not get an MIP from the military for anybody that has retired from the military unless they are teaching junior ROTC. And the military, correct me if I'm wrong, they select who we have in our.
selection.
Yeah.
And they have to be under active duty reserve or retired, so there
Correct.
are actually some active duty reserve.
So they've identified who they are, they know who they are. And so we have a contract that's specific to that. You're welcome.
You got something? Okay.
All right. Okay, percentage positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Okay. Okay, so as you know, we have percentage positions in this district, and I know those positions are not covered under the negotiated agreement, 40%, et cetera. But when we have a vacancy and we're able to, let's say we get more students and you're a 40% algebra teacher and you get more students in your algebra class and the principal comes back to us and says, Kathy, I need to make that position a 60% or an 80%. But we hold tight to, you can't just flip somebody from part-time to full-time without posting. The problem is, as you know, we can't. And if you have a good algebra teacher in the class who's in a 40% position, who now wants to be 60 or 80% or is willing to fill in wherever that position is, we would like to be able to flip them without having to post the additional piece. So you're teaching 40%, we get approval for an additional 20% because we've added so many students. We would then have to post a 20%. You'd have to apply for the 20%. We know nobody's going to apply for a 20% algebra teacher. And we go through all of these hoops before we can flip this person into that position. And so, again, we want to do good things for good teachers without making them fill out applications and go through interviewing processes and things like that.
So we're already doing this for vocational and critical shortage. Is that, why do I have some red? Number
Is that
2,
current language?
So yes, so we had an MOU last year.
right?
Okay, and so everything in here is the same. And then this year, we're asking to add the red piece. And so Kathy, I'm going to let you talk about that.
So just, basically it's the other part-time instructional positions less than 60%. that when we move them from full to part-time, from April, we went from April 1 to August 12th. We'd be able to move those without a posting.
Because in number one, it was critical shortage.
Right. It was
Teachers or
shortage. Now it's
vocational?
anybody.
So, okay. So there's no difference. We're just opening it up to everyone else.
Correct.
Right. And it's
And-
basically because of the shortage of teachers. If I have a gen ed teacher that's, teaching 40% and enrollment increases, I usually call Michelle and say, Michelle, I've got somebody here, I've got 60, I'd like to move into 80. Are you
And
okay?
she can waive that. Yeah.
And she can waive that. So that just tells us we can go ahead and move them and not
Is
have
this
to.
for the following year or like if it's a current situation?
Next year,
So it's dated for this year. I mean, our hope is to,
22, 23.
up top, it says 21,
I know,
22.
but I'm just reading number two.
So,
Number 2 says the 22-23 school year. Is that an error? Is that a
is
clerical
this
error?
for,
No,
Next
it's
year?
for this coming, yes, for full-time, for full-time next year. So if we are in the midst of budget and we have a teacher who is 40% and we were able to move them to 60%, we could actually move them right there at the table and say, yes, you can have that position without having to post.
Okay, I was just wondering why it started in April, but that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's good.
Next year.
Wouldn't it behoove you to potentially do that now because you have vacancies and you have people potentially in those?
And through all of next year, why end on August 12th?
Well, because again, that's usually when we move people during budget season, when we have those part-time people moving to full-time because of new numbers coming in enrollment.
but if you want to counter and allow us to do this longer, we will.
We're just
We
asking
need
for,
teachers. We will
you
gratefully
know,
accept whatever you're willing to allow us to do. I mean, maybe this is something that because we're in the circumstances we're in, there's a place in the contract we can put this and not make it an MOU. Just think about it.
Michelle, you listening? Yeah, yeah.
She is.
Good answer.
She's on the edge of her seat, Justin.
she knows, I call her. I call her during the summer and say, hey, I've got a situation here. Are you okay with this moving the individual?
You have a copy of that MOU? Okay. All right, we'll go over and copy.
Do that next year.
We can go over and copy. It's fine. It's not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not gonna go for summer.
Oh, yes, but today you going in there?
Yes.
I was like, I don't know.
Lacking in a job.
I know, it's like her job.
I got a suggestion, but I'm gonna just let it play out. I'm just gonna do it.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait, we are one short then.
Now we are. This one we are. Thank you.
That one goes to Michelle.
I'm taking yours. Okay. So this is Article 9, Professional Employee Qualifications and Assignments. And the only piece that we are looking to adjust is the associate teacher piece. And this is similar to the percentage teachers in the sense that we have really good people in our schools. Vacancy opens in which an associate teacher could, and again, we're just talking about at their current school. I am not talking about Mill Creek, taking an associate teacher from Southwoods. That follows the normal transfer process. This truly is for associate teachers that are working in their current school. A vacancy comes available. We would like for the school to be able to put that associate teacher into the vacancy without having to post the position. And again, this is kind of similar circumstances. We tried to list out, okay, if this happens or this happens or this happens, we could, do it without a posting. But now it's just kind of come to the point where if there's a vacancy, an associate teacher will take it. We'd really like to put them in it. And so before it was, kind of to give you some history, it was, okay, if it was a teacher was in first grade and there was a vacancy in first grade, then we could move the associate teacher into first grade. Then it was if, and we could only move that associate teacher. Then we changed the language to if a first grade vacancy became available, we could look at all of the associate teachers and pick the one that we felt was ready to move into a lead teacher vacancy. And if that person wanted to move in, they could move into that position. And so it just seems like the reasons for vacancies now are just, as you know, you're living it. Just, we could have a laundry list. And so what we would like is the ability to, again, this is an opportunity to keep the people that we have and move them into the vacancy if they would like to go there.
So currently we're looking at F only, right? It's the only thing?
Correct.
Okay. So currently they can move to a regular teaching vacancy. So an associate teacher can become a lead teacher without a posting. Special circumstances in the best interest of students considered to be in the best interest of students as determined by HR with input from the SJEA president.
Correct.
So this seems like limiting language.
Actually, no, because now it's any regular teaching vacancy at their school without a posting. And again, special circumstances will always talk to Michelle. But if you look, under the following circumstances is what was in here. So number one, the class is split because you have so many students now. You allow that associate teacher to become the teacher of record, the lead teacher in the second class. You split the class, lead teacher. Well, maybe that associate is not the best person to take over that class. So maybe they don't want to take over that class. They're not ready. But I have a grade associate that wants to take that class. I can now put them in there without having to post.
Yeah, I just don't
Okay.
know why we want to limit it to their current school when currently it could be at their current school or it could be at a neighboring school. That's what it sounds like. Why are we limiting it to their current school? Am I way off base here? Well, I got some jaws on the floor here.
I mean, technically at another school, that would be a transfer.
Okay,
In this
We would-
situation, you know the employee under your administration,
okay.
and another school would.
But we're adding a clause that
We have a
limits it to your
process,
current
right?
school.
We do.
Yeah, we have a
But
process.
it's within the school, so if there is any, again, depending upon the AT, it could be the class, you know, they were splitting, or it could be another first grade class. This Catherine's
And I think he gets
example.
that. I think he's just asking, you know, how
We're adding a
can we
clause
add
that
this
limits it.
to, how can
Right.
we do
Just
it? But
don't know why.
I think it would
want to
be,
just move teachers, because I just can't move Sally to, you know, POA. I can't. There's a transfer process for that, just like I can't move a lead teacher just because there's an opening over here. Maybe Sally wants that opening.
So this just clarifies current practice then. It always is at the current school. It just didn't say that.
it is always at the current school, but it hasn't always been into
That we can
any
move them
position.
in Any position.
It had to be if you were splitting the class or
Very
during budget
specific.
meetings.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I ask?
All right, I understand.
Can you give me an example? And I know it's been in there, but I'm just curious. What
Mhm.
would be special circumstances? What would that look like? Because I mean, I think that, do we really need that? Because I think you're agreeing that we're going to put people in positions because they're needed.
Our concern, okay, so here was, because we talked about that, because we struck through it over here, but we kept it in. We don't know what we don't know. And we don't also want to not respect the president of the union's position. And so we left that in there just in case something unusual comes up, or we have the ability to talk to Michelle and say, hey, and I can't even think of an example right now, but because this does open it up to everything, but who knows? And you can strike through it if you want, you can take it out, but we believe in communication with.
That's all right. Well, Michelle has a lot to participate in tonight in caucus.
Well, I've been around for
Totally
a while
fine.
since associate teachers been here, so I've seen the changes
Yes.
over the years.
It's not, yeah, I mean, I don't always know what questions to ask.
You did good.
I'm not an associate teacher. I don't have them in my school. So I
Okay.
just don't know what to ask. I made your jaw hit the floor though.
Yes, you did.
Because I'm a procedures girl, we have a procedure for that. But we can talk about it.
Okay.
I see where you're going.
Okay, and so this one you will definitely need to.
You're not short. It's going to Chad, who will deliver to Michelle.
Oh,
You're not short.
Chad,
Chad, can you give that to Michelle, please? Thank you.
you got reassigned.
And then I'm going to turn it over to you.
reassigned your duty.
Your tech keys distribution.
There we go.
Okay.
Assigned duties.
So this one, I am sure that you will definitely focus on. I'm going to preface it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kathy Hutchins with this. But what we are proposing is 2 additional days at the beginning of the summer in which employees may get paid or will get paid for in-service. The preface of that is so that during pre-planning, they can actually plan. Am I saying that? Tell me if I'm not saying, okay.
That is
So
correct.
go. I'm going to let you take it.
So again, looking at this, what we would do would be to go from 196 to 198 days. We would come back on the 1st and the 2nd of August. Those 2 days would be planned training, professional development, even before you set in school for pre-planning. During pre-planning, it would truly be for planning. We've always have said we need planning time. Our teachers need time in their rooms. The only exception to that would be, remember those 3 blocks we have, up to 3 blocks for our administrators, 3 hours. Of course, that first day is that 3 hours, principal welcomes back her or his team. And then there might be 2 blocks, up to 2 blocks that we would have for faculty meetings, or I might have a team leaders meeting, that they may be staggered, but we truly would have that planning time block that you wanted that would be untouched.
And then the Friday, which is the
The
meet
Friday,
the
which is
teacher.
Meet the
Right.
teacher, yes. And in the afternoon, we would like up to an hour if needed for last minute preparations for the opening of school. So I think it actually is is Friday. No, it would be Tuesday, because I think. the
August
starts
9th.
On Wednesday.
Designated meet the teacher in the
Right.
morning and teacher-directed planning in the afternoon, with the exception of if the school administrator chooses to hold a faculty meeting or train up to 1 hour.
So, you want us to read through this now, or do you want us to, is this the last thing you have?
It is.
Why don't we just bring it with us to caucus then?
Yep.
Are there any obvious questions here? I understand the premise. They're not optional days, but if you don't go, you take leave.
And you're using the money
And
from ARP.
Correct.
Yeah, that's our money. And so and if you do take the leave, then you'd have to do the in-service during the pre-planning week. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it may not be offered. It may not be offered, Justin, just because we're trying to have those 2 days of consolidated training, so we get everything in staggered times to be able to
Yeah.
get everything in.
Is there some sort of specific training that you had in mind, or are you just looking for?
So you have some,
There
Written
is,
here.
there's some, we implement
Best
best
standards,
standards
yeah.
this year,
Okay.
so that's going to be some training. The new textbook series. We have foundations K2. Our new teachers all need to be trained, or anyone who wasn't trained. So we would be able to get that in instead of having them be pulled out during the school day. So what we're trying to do is try to I'm going to say front load it before they get into the classroom. So they have all that necessary training
Yeah.
before pre-planning. Sure.
I'm going to ask a question, but you would have to so if somebody is not there, you would have
We'll
to
have
during
to
the
go
course,
back.
because you're going to have new teachers that
We
get
are gonna
hired
have
that
new
are going to need
teachers.
this,
And so
correct?
we
So
will
it may
look
not
at-
be during pre-planning.
You're gonna have to
It'll
learn,
be
but
at
they're
some
gonna have to
point
learn
around.
what
They are.
material was
Right.
distributed. So
Correct.
I guess
Correct.
it's
So
both,
trying to limit it.
right. I mean, I can
Trying to do some-
I can see the pros and
Mhm.
cons here. I appreciate the extra 2 days of pay, you know what I mean? Certainly.
Heads up,
Um,
this much heads up too.
Yeah, we probably need to solicit feedback to see what people want. But, so I can appreciate the 2 days but it's not like if I take leave, I still kind of am on the hook, de facto. I still have to
Well, we
learn
would
that
hope that you would
information.
want to learn, because you're in the classroom, and if they're new best standards, you have to know what those best standards say and what you need to do.
Yeah, and it may be enough lead time this time to be
And so our
agreeable.
goal is before we leave for break, our teachers will know what those 2 days look like. We already
Summer
are
break.
already meeting.
Yes.
We already are meeting and looking at what's being offered this summer.
Mhm.
And then we're waiting to see where we land with this, because if we land where we want to land, then we meet at the end of the month to actually plan those 2 days. So before teachers leave, they will know what those August 1 and August 2 look like. They will know that those 2 days of planning, where they need to be, where they need to go, what's being offered.
Okay, so the pre-planning day is going to move to Friday, the 29th.
Correct, that's the optional day.
day.
Mhm.
That's
And then
good that it moves to a Friday.
First and the second, the Monday and Tuesday, and then pre-planning starts on that Wednesday, more than likely with a school-based administrator session.
What was the optional day, August 3rd?
It was August 2nd,
2nd. So Tuesday, August 2nd, now it would be Friday,
correct?
July 29th.
Mhm.
Okay, just from a days of
Sure.
the week perspective, that's not a bad deal.
I have a question. The training on those 2 days, are they all day trainings? Because in here it says that the 2 days will focus on 2 3-hour.
Yeah, that's how we block them, 2-3 hours.
Oh, in the day.
In the day.
Okay,
Yes, then
I'm
we
so
give them
sorry.
an hour
Thank
and a
you.
half for lunch.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yep.
All right.
All right, and obviously they're fully paid, yeah. Okay, well, something to think about. August 1st and 2nd.
And then, of course, they'll be paid in their first paycheck. A nice little bonus for them coming back.
Correct. And I just put the first paycheck. I don't know what those dates are. You haven't done the pay calendars yet.
I'll
So
call it a bonus, Kathy. That's a bad word on our side.
Well, I'm not saying it was a bonus, I'm just saying it's.
Extra pay, yes.
Extra
It
pay.
is, it is.
I'm-
And I'm tongue in cheek a
We
little
are
bit,
trying
but
to
it's a
work
bad
with
word for
you,
us.
Justin, because we hear what you're saying. You want that planning time.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, okay, here's an opportunity for us to get that Monday and Tuesday, move it out of the way, and then
Yeah.
get that planning time that you all want.
So let's just add up teacher and then like, call it admin. So on the 3rd, so it's a half and a half. It's 1/5 and 1/8, so that would be 1 and 1 to each. And then 9th is meet the teacher. So with an hour for admin. Okay. All right.
and then again, it's always if the admin.
Yeah, they may not need it.
Right.
Right.
No, it's, I mean, I'm just adding up the blocks of time and it is better than the current. It's more teacher-directed time than the current. Yes. Anything? All right. I'm going to count our supplements.
Okay.
We already have ours. They're all yours.
Thank you for putting those in. I need to start doing that.
Good. That was a good idea.
Mhm.
It's the only way I like to do it.
All right, so we, I mean, we're overall here, we're gonna meet on some stuff and we're gonna counter on some stuff, right?
Oh, that's good.
So,
The lights. Yes. Thank you. Sorry, it's a little thing.
I was wondering. I want to be seen as the dark side over there. So here, let me preface all of this. We proposed a lot of things in supplements. We accepted the 250, that's a big deal. We should acknowledge that. The 250 we saw as a starting point to move to 300. You didn't see it that way. And many other things you said the committee needs to do some work. And I somewhat demonstrably made the case that the committees don't exactly work that way. And so we put our brains together and thought, well, how could we make committees work that way? And so we started looking at Appendix A, in addition to, which is working committees, by the way, in addition to this. So where the work has been done, we are countering with a counter proposal. Where there could be some work done by the committee in the future, we think that we have some language that will bolster that committee. And it has specific jobs, by the way, the committee. It's to review the factors. Like, they're referred to as elements, but they should be factors. Staff, time, and pressure. So if you look at page 2,
Okay.
I can send you right now, I can send to Phyllis and we can connect there, or I don't know if I can connect, but I can show you a spreadsheet that it's all color coded, all the comps of the different counties, either like size and FTE or contiguous. And we can put it up there, and what you'd see is most of it's red because we're behind those comps. And so 250 does a lot to get us closer. It turns some of those red spots green, and where it remains red, we're closer. Of course, all of this assumes that other counties aren't raising their supplements as well. So it's fair. So then I can show you where it would be at 280, where we would close the gap and actually exceed some of these other counties, the comparable counties. So we wanted to get to 300 in 5 years. You said no to that, but 250 now. So I don't think there's any work for the supplement committee to do here on this. I could show you the spreadsheet. Let's put it up there. The work has been done, right? And I'll send it to you if you want. But you can click 250 current, 250 and 80 and 280, and you can see it change color as you go. So it's a beautiful document. Anyway.
So why don't you,
Yeah.
caucus, you can email, bless you.
Yep.
You can email it to Mike, Gretchen, and I.
Sure. All three of you. All right, so 280 would go a long way. Plus, the committee's job, remember, is not to negotiate the value of a point. It's to look at the factors. So our job is to negotiate the money. So speaking of committees and bolstering their ability, this is an E. The supplement committee should be, some of this is just cleaning up language. So 6 members of the association and 6 members of management. We included that, selected by the superintendent or designee. Certainly there's somebody that oversees that the superintendent doesn't have to select personally. This committee will review the complete list of positions presently receiving supplements and others that they consider should be receiving supplements to determine the appropriateness of the 3 factors. So for example, if it takes more time to coach a specific sport or do a certain club or drama or chorus, then that's what they would be looking at, is staff time and pressure. All right. Those points determine what each supplement is worth based on what we negotiate here. Okay, so any recommendation will be forwarded to the negotiating teams. That's already in there. Questions so far?
No, I'm good.
Next page. Okay, so we saw K as an opportunity that we thought you would go for as far as like recruiting people. That was not your position. We respect that. We do, however, think that that the supplement should go up just over time. And so we will counter with 750. And then we would like to double the amount of money in the pot. So we suggested 250. You said, no, let's leave it at 75. And it's like this first come, first serve until the pot of money runs out. So if we're going to if we up it, we should up the pot of money for 2 reasons. 1, get more people the money, and 2, if we increase the actual value to 750. So here's the argument. When you look at K, that's good for everybody. It's good for teachers. It's good for the district. It's good for students. I don't see why we wouldn't put fairly minimal, in the grand scheme of things, fairly minimal resources into that. I think it would go a long way.
And you're in agreement, I can see here, you're in agreement with our language that it would be 1 so that we could give it to more people.
Right.
And then stay with us so that we can, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're willing to compromise. If you didn't see it as a recruitment tool, we thought that you might. And so we had to get rid of the requirement of working here for 4 years.
Gotcha.
If we're going to do that.
Okay.
You already agreed in M to $1 million of diff pay. N, so I think we don't have anything to talk about there. It's 165 is the actual calculation, correct? We spoke about.
So.
Remember we spoke about after, okay. And then, so that changes back to 1980, the maximum for a department chairperson. All right. So that 129 becomes 165. We agreed that the 7-period supplement, if principals are not having a difficult time finding people, then so be it. We wanted the tech high school in the supplement in the contract, but that is based on the fact that we've done it for several years in a row. But if you want to leave it in MOU, leave it in MOU. For whatever reason, whatever the reason is, if you don't want to do it, okay. The countywide middle school athletic liaison, we're not really sure what happened there. The conversation was had among athletic directors and the stakeholders involved. And we're talking about one countywide supplement at $2,000. Okay. Now, if we don't want it in the contract, then we propose it in an MOU. And that will allow the supplement committee to consider whether it should be under the supplement article. If it exists, we can evaluate how effective it was, if the person who received it felt that it was the right amount of money, so on and so forth. At least it puts it in a temporary status instead of permanent. So here's the MOU that would accompany that.
Okay, so instead of, well, no, actually, I think I want to know. Can you tell me who was in this meeting?
A middle school principal,
Who?
Jay Willits.
Okay.
And all the middle school and K-8 athletic liaisons or athletic coordinators, I think is what it's
Okay.
An athletic coordinator at a school.
So say it again, middle school and elementary school?
No, there is no
Middle
elementary
school.
school. It's middle, let me get the correct word just to make sure I have it right. It is the middle school interscholastic coordinators at
Okay.
each school.
Middle school and interscholastic.
Coordinators.
Okay. So you're saying, all right, and so Mr. Willits was the only principal present?
Yes.
And Paula Bacinosi was not there for this?
No.
He's the head of our athletics department.
I can break down the proposal a little bit more if that will help some. In the way, so he had suggested maybe we pay through a system where each school collected money from ticket sales and funneled it back to the person who was going to be in charge. That was what was proposed. So we wanted to take it a different direction, obviously, with this and not do it that way and make it
It was a nice idea, but it
was
needs
a
to be
great idea, I
formalized.
think. Yeah, we
You
wanted
can't
it to be
just
formal.
skim from here and skim from there. It
Yeah.
needs to be something else.
So part of my concern is that we had one administrator that was present for this.
Okay.
I mean, I just want to kind of talk this through and let you know that we had one administrator, so all middle school, all K-8 interscholastic coordinators were present. And do you know the date? Give me an
This
idea. Was it in the fall, the summer?
So this was before he took the role at Sequoia Creek.
Okay,
So this was a little while back, yeah.
okay. So January 2021. Okay, and so do you all normally have an interscholastic coordinator meeting and he was invited, or how
So
did this happen? Did he invite you all, or?
Yeah, so he invited us all into this to discuss it, yeah. But it's typically handled, it's just thrown out there, hey, who's gonna do this year as a volunteer basis?
Who's volunteering to do it?
And we all will discuss together as interscholastic coordinators, hey, there really needs to be one solid point of contact that can communicate with the principals instead of it coming from 13 different schools. Let's funnel it to one person that can handle everything.
So we don't need to have a volunteer position there. We want it to be a normal
I think
position.
the
Single
workload
supplement.
for it is more than a volunteer position.
Yeah, okay.
So you can see where I'm coming from, I hope, and that is
Sure.
that we have one administrator who met with a group of coordinators
With an idea.
with an idea, and didn't talk to any of us about his idea. May not have spoken to any other principals about this.
I know at the time he was kind of the leader of middle school athletics portion of all, I think they usually choose somebody to kind of take charge
With
of
that
that.
liaison. Okay.
Yeah, so he kind of was in that
Okay.
role at the time.
Okay.
And maybe that's why.
Yeah, we don't, I mean,
Not
okay.
trying to get him in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay, you're doing a good job,
We
Jay.
like him.
Yeah.
We like him.
I don't see it as any different than anybody else bringing an idea. That's why we brought it to the table. I mean,
Yeah.
it's somebody brought an idea. That's it.
And I get that. It's just one that we need to get a little more information on from
Sure.
kind of what our,
And this, I mean, perhaps, I'm not, it's going to come across flippant, I
That's
don't mean
okay.
it,
No,
but
I know that.
perhaps he would have gone to a supplement committee, but there hasn't been one, you know what I mean? There hasn't, and we're going to try to attempt to
right,
address that. Can we skip to, you added 2 supplements for beach
Is it
volleyball.
beach?
So in the
Yes.
future, that would be a perfect thing for the committee to handle additional supplements that they would recommend, but obviously we need to do it, right?
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to sit
Correct.
here and reject that idea.
correct. That's Florida's high school
Right.
athletics, it's sanctioned.
So we're back, we're now on the page that includes supplemental pay all levels, which is SAC, STEM, and Performance Matters, that page.
Yes.
The pages aren't numbered, so.
It's okay.
You with me?
I'm with you.
All right, so Performance Matters, Schoology, and TAC. So as you know, according to the MOU that's currently in place, there's a factor of
Bless you.
the number of students at the school affects the amount. So we just captured that in the time
Right.
factor. So again, something that in the future the committee would, make recommendations to revise. But again, the work has been done between the negotiating teams already. So we think that we are in agreement already in practice with this, the MOU. So we've tried to capture that language on this page in this section. So performance matters. In other words, as soon as it's at a school that exceeds 1,000 students, so 1,001, they get an extra time point. That would be 3 points. Then they'd be at 750, right? Which is what they get now, according to the MOU. You with me?
I am. This is just for this little group
The 3 asterisks.
here. Okay. And
If you look at the others, they're kind of laid out the same way with the asterisks. and the
Yeah.
note at the bottom of
okay,
each
I just
table.
wanted, yep, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that was, okay, keep going.
Same thing with Schoology and TAC. As soon as they pass 1,000 students, they get to 1,001, you add it. So
Right.
it's all, the money should, we looked at it every which way. So the money should equal the
Match
same
the
amount.
MOU, right,
Correct.
okay.
That was it for that.
Did-
Yeah.
Did you do this? This piece? That was good.
With help.
Okay.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, this team is unbelievable,
Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
unbelievable.
Okay.
So the MOU accompanies that. They're
Yes.
related. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any questions there before I close the folder on that?
No.
All right, so there's also, this is related to working committees. So we suggest some changes here to working committees. Okay, so we think that the committees would work best if you look at the preamble to this appendix. Maybe a preamble only applies to an entire contract, but the lead in to the appendix. The committee set forth in this appendix shall follow the parliamentary procedures established by Robert's Rules of Order. Unless otherwise agreed by the SJEA president, each committee shall consist of 2 co-chairs. Our suggestion is that we do 1 from SJEA and 1 from management. All right, so if we want the committees to work, we think that this is the best starting point, okay? You're gonna see a lot of strike throughs. There were 12 committees listed in this appendix. We believe that 4 of them are obsolete. Also, the color red is fading.
That's okay.
You can still tell if there's any question
Yes.
about what's new
Got it.
language, please ask me. So let's look at diff pay, which would become the new number 1.
Mhm.
The committee this group will meet to establish the district's differentiated pay, which of course is now $1 million, just for the record, per Florida statutes. The committee shall meet annually or more often to implement the differentiated pay requirements. So it just specifies what their job is. The decisions of the differentiated pay committee regarding payment shall be brought to negotiating teams. So that's the role of a committee, to do the work, like you mentioned. The committee needs to do some work, then bring it to the negotiating teams. In an ideal world, this is how it would work.
Okay, so now the teams work together
Correct.
and then the MOU
I know.
kind of moves to the board. So you don't want that to
It should come
happen
here.
anymore. You
It
want
should come
it
here.
to come to,
Right. And we just think that that's the way it should be done. It shouldn't be an exception for diff pay. All right, the new number 2 would be the EEE committee. This committee shall meet at least 2 times per year as determined by the district. Oh, sorry, the makeup is 9 from each. That's no change. The 2 times per year at least, as determined by the committee's 2 co-chairs, with 1 additional meeting as determined by either party. The party is referring to SJEA or management, to examine any proposal that would affect an instructional employee's final summative evaluation score. Members of the committee shall vote on proposed changes before presenting to the negotiating teams. And nothing herein is considered to deny or restrict the board of its rights to manage and direct the workforce. So if there are changes to the evaluation system, either side of it, the data side or the observation side, that work can be done at the committee, and then changes would be brought to us for incorporation into Article 20.
Which this language is the same that was currently in Article 20. So the red is, we're not proposing.
No, not entirely, some of it.
Yeah, we haven't changed it as much as it looks. Let's just.
Right. It just, when we
It
did
just wasn't
agree to
matched.
changes in Article 20, it didn't all carry over into Appendix A. So you will see a slight difference there, but now it matches in our proposal. The new number 3 is the supplement committee. I've already read this because we passed the exact language in Article 17, so I don't, unless you want me to read it again. The calendar committee is just a new number. You see the formatting on the number. Every document is a little different, as you probably experience. So that's it.
Okay.
So the backside is there, but there's no changes other than numbers. Article 5 is the grievance procedure. Safe to say that there is one substantive change that we're proposing, but a lot of this is to capture practice. I'm going to have Tammy speak to a lot of this if you don't mind. This is something that she deals with along with Michelle, but I'll get the ball rolling.
Okay, you got it.
You think that?
I do. I
Don't
have all the confidence in the world.
overconfidence. Overconfidence. Rule number 1. All right, so C really should be called procedural guidelines. That's just a semantic change. So after 9, oh, I'm sorry, in 6. Let me see. Failure at any step of this procedure to communicate the decision on a grievance within the specified time limit shall permit the employee to lodge an appeal at the next step of this procedure. So wherever they're at, we believe that that should be a period. Whatever step they're at, they should be able to lodge an appeal at the next step. Well, there's nothing more to say there. That's just,
So,
yeah.
all right, so explain that. So you're saying that if,
It's the current language. It's nothing new. This is the current language.
No,
but you
there's
struck
struck
through,
It's
but
struck
any
through,
grievance
correct.
not advanced from one step to the next within the time limit, so that step shall be deemed resolved by the administrator and the board's answer to the previous step. So when you say, help me, I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've
Yeah,
dealt
I
with
think
grievance.
it's
So
basically it's if they are not going to answer to, it kind of conflicts. So if you read it, you've got 2 different things here. One, you advance it. If you don't get a response, then we're asking for its advance. But then it says if you don't advance, basically it's dropped. So that's not, it shouldn't conflict. It should just be, if administration doesn't answer or management doesn't answer, it should agree to move to step 2.
And the time limits are outlined in
Yeah, the time
later
limits are
sections.
all
So it's not
outlined.
arbitrary.
Right.
Can we keep going?
yes,
All right, 10, 11, 12, and 13 would all be new, starting with 10. Grievances and answers regarding this grievance procedure shall not be placed in an employee's permanent personnel file. We don't know that that happens now, but we would like to include the language that it doesn't happen. Number 11, again, hoping that it doesn't happen, but no reprisals of any kind shall be taken against any party of interest participating in the grievance procedure. Number 12, grievances that are resolved by remedies not outlined on the grievance form must be put in the form of a memorandum of understanding and must be signed by the grievant or the association and the superintendent or their designee. In other words, if it's not followed step by step in this article and it's resolved, then acknowledge that it's resolved in an MOU.
And it
Between
could
the two
be- it
parties,
could be a
not between
settlement.
us.
It could be a settlement agreement in lieu of termination. The board has agreed to give Kathy 2 months of insurance. And then their termination is, then they resign, but they're going to get 2 months. It's a settlement agreement in lieu of taking something to arbitration. And it's been done many, many times.
And then, of course, you can't keep filing the same grievance, so you can only file it once, but you can withdraw at any level. So a grievance may be withdrawn at any level, but the same grievance may not be filed a second time by the same party. Probably just good practice to do that. All right, the contents of the grievance. The only thing that we're adding here, it said signature of the grievance. I know it's picky, but signature is not always legible, so name, signature, and of the person or the association.
Meaning the association could take the grievance on
Right.
instead of an individual.
On the next page, number 1 is a pronoun change. Number 2, help me, Tammy. Number 2, why is it step 1 and not step 2?
Well, the informal, you don't want to take you take it straight to step 1 because it goes to the HR director in our change that we're
Okay,
making
so
further down.
so the way we're suggesting what was step 2 would be step 1.
Correct.
All right.
Right. Informal was with the principal. Step 1 was with the principal. We're eliminating one of those steps. There's no.
All right. Number 8 is struck through. Number 7 has a strike through. Other employees will not be involved in the process while on duty unless under the provisions above. So again, help me if I missed something, but it's not only subparagraph 6. It's if they have any other employees will not be involved. They're not involved, period. That's it. Not just if paragraph 6 applies. Number 8, it is our position that that these things could be grieved. So number 8 would be a complete strike through for us. It is expressly agreed that the following matters shall not be the basis of any grievance filed under the procedure outlined in the article. And you see the 3 things right there. I don't know why, we don't know why there's something prohibiting somebody from grieving. It doesn't necessarily advance, but they can grieve. So under the grievance progression, we have 2 sections, informal and formal. And I think this is where you'll find a lot of red. So correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but you'll find a lot of red, but it's just clarifying language. There are some substantive changes, and then number 8 is the one that I referred to, that the most substantive. But again, it gets, I'm going to read, okay, strike through, red. I'd rather, if you're okay with it, let me outline this. So in the procedure, in the informal procedure, we have a couple of steps. Okay, number 1, there's a discussion. Okay, that's the first part of informal. Number 1, there's a discussion had. In an attempt to resolve any grievance in informal, verbal discussion between grievant and employer's administration, where the grievant shall advise the supervisor of the section of the agreement. So we're saying that the person needs to point out what was violated. Okay, shouldn't be ambiguous. Within 15 days of that, this is still just all verbal, right? The employee will present the grievance to the employer's administration. At the informal procedure, still the conversation, the grievant may be accompanied by the association, SJEA. If the association is present, the immediate supervisor or principal may have a member of their managerial staff, or if none exists, an assistant principal from another school at the meeting. So this falls under Weingarten rights.
Correct. Right.
So we believe that it falls under.
Well, not having someone else, but an employee could have.
You can have a representation.
But why, I thought Weingarten writes this if the meeting is regarding discipline.
But it's also a violation of the contract, so they would have the president always represents typically the president or myself goes in and represents in an informal, or the building rep goes with the
So,
member.
so forget the point about Weingarten because
Yes.
that is
Yeah, that
discipline.
doesn't, that
But-
doesn't,
Tammy's point is that this is what happens.
Correct. If they're not, most people aren't going to, the building rep typically goes in an informal that says, Gretchen, we think that, I haven't had planning for 2 months. And so here's the we're going to file an informal grievance. Can you resolve it? Yes. Oh my gosh, I didn't know you didn't have it. But they're going with a building rep who has that additional support. And, or usually if it rises to 1 or 2, then it's Michelle or myself.
And it just
And it
says
goes
that
on
they
up.
may. They don't have to go get
no, I get
somebody.
that. I just
Yeah.
wanted
They
to
don't have to go get
clarify that
Correct.
it's not
Right.
under,
No.
this is not a discipline.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. So instead of 10 days, we think 5 days is if you're going to try to resolve an informal grievance, let's get it resolved in 5 days, 5 work days. And then the answer comes in writing to the employee. If the employee is not satisfied, then we can start going into the formal procedures. So informal is best if we can resolve. But the resolution should be in writing, even though the process happened verbally. Am I correct? You have questions on that?
No, I'm just gonna let you keep going. I'll read it kind of
Okay.
verbatim when we're in
Yeah,
caucus.
it's
might
a
be
lot
a
of
lot
read and
easier to-
strike throughs, but we think a lot of it, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that all of it is not substantive. There are some substantive changes, but a lot of it is just to reflect the process as it happens now. I don't think this article's been looked at in a long time.
Till we did the major rehaul a while back.
All right, so formal procedures. So this should probably take longer if the grievance still exists after the informal process was followed. Then we're talking about weighing it out for 10 days. So having a restriction of 5 days there doesn't make a whole lot of sense when the person is weighing it out, whether to follow up with a formal. The associate superintendent is the person who would receive this, or a designee. A signed written statement of grievance on the official grievance form in the negotiated agreements. That is Appendix C. We do have an updated version of that we can send you.
It's the same, it's
Just formatting.
It's
formatted.
Formatted differently.
And I'd be honest with you, I didn't print it separate. It's a separate document, so I'll just send it to you or print it for you. The statement of grievance shall contain the information outlined in Section D of this article. Within 10 days after receipt of the grievance form, the Associate Superintendent of Human Services or designee shall arrange a meeting with the grievance and or the association to resolve the grievance. So we're trying to move the timeframes where it seems reasonable to move them. This one seems like 10 days is reasonable to have an answer. To have a meeting arranged, excuse me. The Associate Superintendent of Human Resources or a designee shall give the employee an answer in writing on the appropriate place of the official grievance form, no later than 5 workdays, already existing language, after the aforementioned meeting, with a copy to the superintendent, the grievance, and the association. Step 2. If the grievance is not satisfied with the result of the formal grievance at step 1, an appeal may be submitted using the official grievance form to the superintendent or designee within 5 workdays. We have a pronoun to change here.
And there's
And that's okay. Phyllis is gonna go through all of this
We've
and
been
make
testing
sure
those,
that they
Fine.
done, so, because you've got his designee.
Yeah,
We're
that's what
gonna,
I just saw it.
we will clean all of these up.
It's amazing
at the
how many
end.
you can miss.
Yeah.
We got most of them. The superintendent or a designee shall communicate their decision in writing to the aggrieved employee, the immediate supervisor of the grievance, and the association within 5 workdays after the hearing. So we believe that is happening, but if it's not, then they should.
It does.
They should, but we believe that it is happening.
It is happening.
All right, so step 3 is optional. If you want to waive the idea of going to the board, you can go to step 4, but let's look at step 3 first. Unless both parties agree to waive step 3 and move directly to step 4, the next step in the grievance procedure shall be a board hearing. Within 10 days after receiving the decision of the superintendent, an appeal of the decision may be made to the board by filing a copy with the chairman of the board, whoever the chairperson is, rotates, from what I understand. It shall be in writing and accompanied by a copy of the decision at step 2, no later than 15 workdays after receiving the appeal Again, mostly trying to speed up the process a little bit, but we did add a couple of days. We added 5 days here or there where it seemed like it would be needed. But mostly we're trying to reduce the days, with the purpose of listening to any oral arguments presented by all those listed in steps 1 and 2 on the grievance at a regular or special meeting. All right.
And I do know sometimes those timelines have to be extended because getting time, and this has happened before where we might have had to mutually agreed to extend the timeline because can't get with the board in that timely fashion.
So tell me what, again, I'm so sorry because I have not been at a grievance hearing in a long time. Tell me what change, because I get the days, the 20 to 15. but
Right.
What else is changing in this? Like this first sentence, it says, unless both parties agree to waive step 3 and move directly to step 4, the next step in the grievance procedure shall be a board hearing.
The difference is, Kathy,
Yeah.
is that basically it says you have to do a board hearing. So instead of, there's times when, we may want to do a board hearing, but usually both attorneys or whomever's doing it agree, so that's just it. We may just want to waive it and go straight to arbitration and just skip step 3 all the way around.
So if SJEA wants to go straight to arbitration, if we don't agree and the board says, no, we want to hear this, then there would be a hearing.
Conversation. Yeah, I don't know who prevails over that, but we would.
Because we want to make sure that I want to make sure that I am now not going to negotiate away
Yeah,
a right
I got
of the board
Mhm.
to a hearing because
Um,
you all say we don't want,
No.
we
if I
want to
could-
go straight to arbitration. So
Sorry
I'm
to
just
jump
trying
in.
to that's okay. No,
But
please.
I will, right underneath the word optional, both parties would have to agree to waive step 3. So if the board didn't agree, then they get the hearing. Okay.
Thank you.
That's right. Okay, I don't know where we were. Step 4?
Step 4.
So step 4 is an impartial arbitrator if it gets to this point, and that request needs to be made within 5 working days.
Just trying to speed up the process.
Yeah, where we could.
Yes.
There were a couple times where we actually lengthened the time allowed, but where it made sense, we think. All right, and then, well, we did get we got the form, but it's not the clean version. All right, under G, number 6, any employee for whom a grievance is sustained shall be reimbursed. So, Tammy?
Yeah, whatever the arbitrator says back pay for 2 years, the district has to abide by what the arbitrator, because it's binding.
So that's what happens now, is what you're saying?
We haven't had an arbitration in a really long time. Our first one's coming up later
Okay.
in March.
All right, and again, the form has been updated. You can kind of ignore the last page there. The form has been updated.
This is just showing what changes we made.
Yeah,
It's just
I'll send it to you.
literally just cleaning.
You want copies or you want an electronic copy
Um,
of the proposed new form that has no substantive changes?
So why don't you do this at our next meeting, bring the real deal, because we usually TA on it.
Okay.
And then that way,
Let me just make a note.
and Phyllis, if you would email you and Tammy, just you, Tammy and Michelle, all of the articles that we just passed across
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, of
Who
course.
would you like it to?
Me.
There's no sense.
So when we get into caucus, if you'll email Justin all of
Justin's
those
got all
articles so
of
that he's got them.
Yep, we'll just exchange. So did you have articles or all MOUs?
We had one article
Article 9?
and the rest are MOUs.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 MOUs?
Yes. So you
And
should
one
have
article.
5 items that will come to you.
Okay, and we have 5 too.
Okay.
We've only presented 4.
Okay, keep going. I'm on the edge of my seat. Yeah.
But wait.
So we actually have done a lot of research, and in the future, if we agree to changes in Appendix A, probably more of this will fall on the Triple E committee, but we have done a lot of the research, and so we have looked at many contracts, and we have surveyed our people several times, and this is what we have come up with. So, more room here. All right, the definition section is new. I think we're down to just a few continuing contract people, right? 4 or 5, but we should all know who they are, or at least what the position means. Professional service contract, we have maybe 20%. Probationary, somebody in their first year, and annual contract is all the rest of us. So I could read them to you, but they are definitions that are pretty straightforward, right? The section is new, just so that when they're referred to, we have a definition to go to. It's just good practice to have the definition section. All right, so our first, where there's a pronoun change in A, and then our first substantive change. This one you will find some substantive proposals in. Number 1, all employees shall be observed by their principal or supervisor and/or designee. If an instructional employee requests, they shall be evaluated by a different evaluator. And we've tried this before. We think if inter-rater reliability is a real thing, then this shouldn't be a problem. Let me just say it frankly. It shouldn't be a problem, and it should put somebody at ease. This should be a good thing for both the administrator and the teacher or the instructional person. Right? This should only occur after receiving feedback and after discussion with the current evaluator. It shouldn't just be this, automatic response. Give me somebody else. No, have a discussion, right? See if you can resolve you'll see this as a theme in here. We have to have difficult discussions in PLCs. There's no reason that we shouldn't be able to have difficult discussions with administrators. We should encourage it. Question?
No, I absolutely agree.
So it's kind of an overarching point that I get to hit right here at the beginning. All right, number 2, the evaluator should be trained in a board-approved evaluation tool. The evaluator can only mark up to 5 observable elements per observation unless it is improving a prior score. So let me explain where this is coming from, because you're probably like, what? I can see I got your attention. All right. So scoring 13 elements. I know this is okay to talk about. Scoring, because it had to be explained to me. Feedback should be specific, first of all, right? Don't overwhelm somebody with, too much, okay? So 5 is an arbitrary number that we picked, fair, right? I'll acknowledge that. But scoring 13 elements, for example, just throwing out a number, scoring a bunch of elements in only a 15 to 20 minute window is probably not best practice anyway. And we want the feedback process to be as specific as possible. That is beneficial to the teacher, to the instructional person involved. So it might seem like, I want you to think about it, because it might seem a little far-fetched at first, but when you think about it, specific feedback, scoring too many things in one setting is not best practice. I think we would all agree to that. Now, whether it's 5 or 6 or 8, 4, I don't know. 5 is the number that we settled on. I'm going to keep going unless you have questions. All observations shall be scheduled in advance with the teacher. That typically, see, this is one of those things where sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, and we're looking for some equity, okay? So observations should be scheduled in advance with the teacher. That is not in any way preclude an administrator from walking in. We can't do that, right? Administrators run schools. They walk into rooms. It's cool. But if it's an observation, it should be scheduled in advance with the teacher, and that's for equity purposes. The teacher may request a pre-observation or a post-observation conference with their evaluator. We used to do that when the system was kind of updated, that went away as a requirement. Additionally, there should be a mutual written agreement by the evaluator and the teacher before the teacher receives an observation the day before winter break, spring break, or Thanksgiving break. Mostly this is driven by student absences. So if there's, a good portion of the class out, that teacher may make some accommodations for them, the students that are there, to do makeup work, to do this or that. And If the observation is scheduled in advance, I guess that would take care of that, but in writing could be an email, I suppose.
So that's my question
Yeah.
is, what is a mutual written?
Email.
Okay, and the concern is about the number of students
That's
that
it,
are
yeah,
in
that's the major
attendance
concern, yeah.
prior to a break.
Right.
One second.
Number 4, evaluators shall provide timely feedback following an observation. We've made some progress here, actually, defining a timely. We made progress a couple of years ago, if you remember. So we're trying to bolster that a little bit. So after that, including walkthroughs. So if they do a walkthrough, as long as they put it in the system, maybe we need to say that, if it goes in the system. Electronically entering an observation or sending a request to hold a professional conversation within 5 working days is considered timely, or is timely. That's the definition of timely. Teachers will have 24 hours to review a shared draft of formal observation before it is finalized. The employee, in turn, will respond using the observation tool within the collaborated observation within 5 or fewer working days, with the observation finalized within 10. We think that the system is now embedded enough into the culture of the schools that we can reduce the timeline to 5 and 10 from 10 and 20.
Okay. And
Go ahead.
Forgive me if I'm just going to kind of speak kind of about what I'm thinking about. So just something to think about
That's
is I'm
fine.
thinking of a Chris Phelps who has, 3,300 students and many, many teachers. Is that,
Well, he doesn't evaluate them all.
I understand, I
Yeah.
get that, but, all right, we'll
Okay.
think about it. I'm trying to, again.
I understand.
Okay.
When assigning a score below applying, we had some language there. An employee shall be provided specific related feedback by the evaluator and can request another observation. We believe that that is happening, but not necessarily consistently. That is based on the data that we received from our research. So 2 things bubble to the surface: timeliness and inter-rater reliability. So that's what the theme.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Timeliness being one of the big ones.
Yeah, timeliness is huge. And it's not just that it's ambiguous of what timely is, but it's just not consistent.
Okay.
Let me make sure I didn't miss one of the talking points here. Nope, this is all, a lot of this is, all of it is based on feedback from our people. All right, so where are we at? Number 5, if the score is still below applying, we should have a professional conversation. So the evaluator shall hold a professional conversation with the instructional employee to identify specific areas of concern coupled with suggested actions to be taken to assist the employee with the improvement of professional practice. In other words, if you got something below applying, let's talk. Have an actual conversation. We're expected to do it in our PLCs to have difficult conversations. There's no reason that it shouldn't happen at this point either. Monitoring will be ongoing. Let's see, what am I talking about there? Anybody? Including but not limited to visitation.
Oh, same one.
I'm not sure why that phrase is added. Morgan, can you help me?
What-
Monitoring will be ongoing.
Just the process of them trying to improve their score can continue to happen. And then if they need to go to the next step, then it can be a more formal process.
Thank you. Number 2, if the instructional employee continues to perform below the effective level in an identified criterion, the evaluator shall meet with the instructional employee to discuss the concerns and develop a plan for improvement. It shall be understood that this plan is not disciplinary in nature and shall be designed with the teacher. At any time, the teacher may have a representative involved in the process. The conversation overall, whatever the wording winds up with, that we wind up with, Kathy, the conversation should be happening. We should not be assessing, developing, and not saying anything. That's the point. the wording is, number 6, non-supplemented extracurricular activities and non-participation in voluntary activities that take place outside the 7.5-hour workday cannot be used as part of the evaluation process. We're not sure if that happens at some places and not others, but when we look at other contracts, that is a pretty good clause to have in there. I don't think that it's a major problem. I don't think we think that. We just think that the language is clear and it puts people at ease. For example, if they don't participate in planning coverage, right? So,
Shouldn't be held against.
right. The next change is on number 10. Again, the idea here is that conversations should be had. It shall be considered a gross procedural error if an instructional employee receives an overall rating of needs improvement or unsatisfactory and has not had the opportunity to complete a professional development plan as outlined in section 5. So we'd have to go back and look at, did those things take place? Did the conversations happen? Or are we just marking people down and moving on? So again, we need to force the conversation sometimes. I'm gonna keep moving until you stop. Number 11.
I'm just going to have you stop 1 second.
Sure.
I'm just rereading the sentence.
Sure.
Okay, keep going.
The employee, number 11, employees have electronic access to the board-approved evaluation criteria within the first 15 working days annually and shall have training if desired. All instructional personnel new to the evaluation shall be offered a minimum of 6 hours of training on the board-approved evaluation system within the first 30 contract days of employment. So you can work with us on this and tell us what you do, because we hear from first-year people and they tell us what happens. And so if you're offering this or you feel like you can offer this, but you need 60 days or something like that, tell us. We're only going off what we know from our people.
So again, help me out.
Mm-hmm.
So based upon this, the belief is that, is this like a new employee isn't receiving access to it? Like if you go in and you log in to the evaluation, it's not there in a timely manner?
No, access means, so like what we have on Inside St. John's. Go ahead.
Yeah, basically the evaluation criteria, Marzano's,
The map.
the map.
It's on Inside St. John's and anybody can click on it? It's not specific to the employee, right? It's about
Right, this is not specific to an
Okay,
employee.
So so that's kind of my question. As soon as somebody has an E-number, which should be the first day of work, they should be able to go into the system and
Yeah, but they have to, yeah.
see
Yeah,
it.
we're not saying this isn't happening. We just want to put the language in there that it needs to be there. But I think the problem is that as a new employee, like you get thrown a lot of information in that orientation period, right? Those first 2 days. I think inside St. John's gets thrown at you, right? I think I remember getting the criteria given to me, but like I had so much information given to me those 2 days that I couldn't tell you like what that criteria even looked like, right? By the time it came for my first evaluation. So maybe we need to change that so that they're getting it, I don't know,
In
within,
chunks.
yeah, like it's not all coming to you at once. And then remembering that, okay, I can go back and look at this criteria in St. John's is just, it's a lot for a new person to a new district to take in.
We want it to be a priority.
So, okay. That's fine.
You can
I'll ask
formulate.
questions.
If you
Yeah,
think-
because I'm
ask the
trying, because
question
I'm
later.
thinking as soon, so it almost sounds like the issue isn't that the person doesn't have access, because they should. It's like as soon as you get your E-number, you can log into Inside St. John's.
Okay.
It sounds like the employee doesn't necessarily know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Or
So-
what does it mean?
Or yeah,
What
or
it means.
what
in
to click
practice.
on, once you're in there.
Right.
If I'm-
Okay.
If I'm
Yeah.
not trained on the procedure, I'm not sure what I'm looking for.
So if they're new, they should have that. 12 is a pronoun. 13. Okay, so, all right, so annual contract teachers. So we're asking if they receive an evaluation of effective or highly effective based on their summative evaluation score, that they be provided an instructional position, provided that the certain conditions are met. So this is not their position, it's a position. If there are 3 consecutive years of effective or highly effective on their summative evaluation, beginning in 2011, 2012. Number 2 would be a funded vacant position for which they are certified has to exist. Okay, we don't expect you to create a position. Number 3 has not been placed on an improvement plan during the evaluation cycle of that year or received formal corrective action for instructional deficiency or behavior violations. So reference to discipline here. Number 4, annual contract teachers reduced at a school site will be guaranteed an interview and priority for which they are qualified. So we're going to have questions on this section.
So reduced for budget, reduced for performance, just terminated. What is reduced? What is the definition of reduced?
What number are we at?
4.
I think it's
Reduced at a school site. No, that's budget.
It's budget.
Yeah, that's what it intimates.
It's budget.
That's not a new school, affected school by a
No,
new
this
school
is-
thing.
You
Okay,
had
we have a
10
process for
kindergarten
that.
and
All
now
right.
you only have 7 kindergarten.
All right, for budget.
But it could be for new school, could it not?
It could be.
It could be what?
For new school. Right, because we're going to draw down from your school because we built a new school over here.
Yeah, but we have a reference to a process. So with the reference to the process is in the contract, and then the process is in an MOU
Mhm.
for a new school.
Okay,
So we wouldn't want to conflict with that, right?
correct. Okay, yeah, good point.
16,
Mhm.
Triple E committee shall, no, oh, so now you're going to see this reflected in Appendix A, all right? The Triple E committee shall consist of 9 members from SJEA and 9 members from management. This committee shall meet at least 2 times per year as determined by the 2 co-chairs. Remember the lead-in to Appendix A, with 1 additional meeting as determined by either party to examine any proposal that would affect an instructional employee's final summative score. Members of the committee shall vote on proposed changes before presenting to the negotiating teams. Nothing contained herein shall be considered to deny or restrict the board of its right to manage and direct the workforce. Same language that I passed to you in Appendix A. Should be the exact same wording. I would point out that the vote needs to happen. Doesn't necessarily need to pass to be presented here at the negotiating team, but that's certainly important, right, that a vote happens. Unless otherwise restricted by law, number 17, the employer shall apply weighting factors when calculating student performance achievement. These factors include, but are not limited to, attendance or prior achievement. When considering attendance, all absences, unexcused and excused, including those for field trips, shall be included. It's existing language, right? Definitions and procedures shall be brought before the Triple E committee prior to presentation at the bargaining table. So that is a reference to another task that committee should be doing, is weighting factors. And 18 came up in the grievance procedure. The teacher performance score, student performance achievement score, the 2 parts of the final summative score are all subject to grievance procedures outlined in Article 5. There's nothing that would prevent that. However, we have a bunch of language that would hopefully handle any issues before it got to that level.
All right, I do not have any questions, but I'm sure we will. Okay,
How long do you want to start with?
let's do 30 minutes.
Okay.
Just to start, and then I'll text you.
And you're confirming the 16th, right? That is
I
on
am
the calendar.
confirming the 16th. I don't know where, but I'm confirming Wednesday, the 16th.
Okay.
Why do you sound like,
I'm
not
wondering if I
sure.
missed something. I swear I was
I
waiting
thought
on
I
you.
had emailed you back and
You
said,
confirmed
we
this
can't
one.
do this. I thought I emailed you back and said, we can't do the 7th. Can you do the 15th or the 16th?
All right, well, I'm,
Let's see. Just
I don't have my work email on my, I don't know how you do it. Can't do it. Can't do
well, it doesn't ding me.
it.
Like it's
Good.
on here, but I don't let it, I do not,
Yeah.
like when I don't let it ding me.
Here nor there, if you're confirming it now, that's fine. If I'm just wondering, my quizzical look
It
was
could have
because
been
I
me.
might have missed something, but I don't
It
think
could
I
have been me.
did.
I could have thought, hey, I should. I don't know. It was all
Well, we'll
good
confirm it
but
now,
yes,
just not
yes,
location.
because I know I sent an email out to my team and said, hey, are you available on the 15th and the 16th? And they had said yes.
All right, 16th is a Wednesday, right?
16th is a Wednesday.
All right, so we'll see what we can counter or TA,
Right,
and
correct.
then
We'll
that gives
see you
us 2
back
weeks to
on-
meet.
absolutely.
With our
Because
teams.
there's, yeah,
All right.
I think for us, there's a lot of deep diving to do on
Sounds like
all
it.
of your work. Okay.
All right, we'll check in
30
30
minutes.
minutes. We're ready. I don't have any TAs, but I have good news mostly. So
Okay, I don't have any TAs. I just have one question.
Sure.
So you gave us a lot of work, which is good. It's good work. And then we can also talk about dates.
yes, I can confirm the 9th. It does work.
Okay.
We can make it work. We
Okay,
had previously ruled it out, but we can make it work.
okay. So the 16th,
Yeah, it's
Of
confirmed.
February.
Confirmed.
March 2nd,
March 2nd is confirmed now. Okay.
and March 9th.
And March 9th. We have 3 dates.
Yes,
Okay,
and
that's successful.
so Phyllis will check for us to find out where,
Okay.
and we will let you know.
Those are all Wednesdays.
Here, okay.
All right. And I feel like you were in mid-sentence. You were saying something. You were saying,
You had a
gave us a lot of work.
Oh, and all I have is one question.
Okay,
So
got
it
it.
was good stuff. Let me ask my question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the only question that we have, because this came, your MOU came with your extra pay for extra duty supplements,
Correct.
in which you were very good about defining the factors and talking about factors. But when you gave us the MOU, you didn't have any factors. So we're trying to figure out where you came up with $2,000.
Well, it would be equivalent to 8 points at 250, right? But it's,
Points of what? Time, staff?
well, then it stops there. The line of thinking, the reasoning stops there, because this is, if you put it in the table, it implies that every school has that supplement available. This is an exceptional supplement. That's why we had it in exceptional supplement section, because it's
Correct.
one per county for the whole county. So if we put it here, it doesn't really make sense. In the
No, I
table.
understand why you would, I just wondered if you used
Yes.
staff time and pressure to
Yes, it's
determine,
8 points. Yeah.
what was it, like two, you didn't, two
We
staff,
didn't parse it out.
6 time?
No.
Because we're trying to figure out like how much time do we think
Oh,
this
no.
would take?
The
And
time factor was 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, the time commitment's not much. You look at pressure responsibility, that's where it's gonna lie a lot in, which is pretty indicative, I would think. Staff, you gotta look at, they're gonna not oversee, but they're gonna be working with and in partnership with however many K-8 and middle school, interscholastic programs we have, which is 13, I think.
Yeah.
14 now?
To assign it specific
Yeah.
points, though, we kind of
We couldn't do that.
Yeah,
it's not-
but we
not
could
really-
estimate 8.
okay, that was it for my question.
All right. Let's see. Like I said, I don't have TAs, but we have,
Okay.
I think, good news. On the percentage positions and the JROTCs.
Mhm.
So for the JROTC, we think that this belongs in Article 16.
I think we would.
But Article 16 is on your side right now. So would you incorporate it into Article 16 before countering?
Yes.
Thank you. So that handles that. Percentage positions. We also believe could go in the contract. If you're willing, we've already passed Article 12. That's where we think it would go under vacancies, right after E. So it would be a new section F.
So we did too, but we knew.
But we already TA'd
that.
it. So but we
Yes.
only TA'd it for pronoun usage. Like we didn't TA it for
Right.
anything substantive. So if you're willing to reopen it, that's
Okay.
where we believe it goes, and we can,
Perfect. Okay.
and then we can have our first ever re-TA. Mine first. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Are you open to that, or is there some
No,
sort
we
of?
actually thought that's where that needed to go,
Okay.
but I didn't know the rules of reopening after, it would be after 13 years of doing this, it would be my first ever reopening.
Well, I would say this, that we both know this from chief negotiator school, that nothing's final until everything's final, right?
That's right.
So at the end of the day, we can do what we both agreed to.
Perfect. I will do that.
Article 9, there's something else in here that we want to look at, and so
Okay.
we don't, to TA the section F where you made a change
Right.
without having our change, so
Okay.
we'll have that for you on the 16th. And then the pre-planning schedule, this is workable. We can counter this, and we will do that on the 16th. We can give you our word that we will make our best effort. And I think we can commit to having a counter.
Okay, and that would be great. I would say
Yeah.
out of everything that we passed, if that one could be kind of the one your priority, just because if that is a go, communication is going to be key.
Yeah, it's early enough. We appreciate that. It's January. This doesn't take effect till August. So, I mean, yeah.
Oh, it's February 2nd,
Oh, it's February.
or whatever it is, but it's close enough.
22.
It's big Groundhog Day.
Uh-huh.
More winter.
Okay, teachers providing class coverage. Ooh, okay, so we had our proposal, we had your proposal. So a
Yes.
couple of things. Again, we are going to counter this. This is important to us. So yeah, we'll make pre-planning a priority, but this is our number one priority.
Sure. No, yeah, I get that. I
Um,
get that, absolutely.
from our constituency. So a couple of things that we want to look at. People on block schedule. Did that come up at all?
No, because it wasn't in yours either. It
All
was
right.
middle, high school level teachers,
Right.
hourly
Okay.
rate. So go for it.
So is there, but ours was like, okay, so hourly rate of pay. Yeah. Shall be paid their hourly rate. So if a planning period, so in our proposal, an hour and a half planning period, they would get an hour and a half. And in your proposal, it's an hour for 45 minutes.
Right.
So we don't want to help, to
I get
pay
that.
these people extra and then
Sure.
take 30 minutes. We'll
Sure.
figure it
Okay.
out. We'll figure it out.
Good.
We think we have a solution to back pay. I mean, we have to deal with it anyway, to be frank. We have to deal with it anyway, because today is February 2nd and the
Mhm.
date on this is January 6th. So we'd have to have a process anyway to cover the last month. We think we can come up with a process to cover before that. Again, this will not be delayed. We will get back within the
So
next 2 weeks.
here's the concern. I
Yeah, go ahead.
heard from the principals on our committee, on our bargaining team, that they didn't send emails. They didn't, it was
Yeah, it was verbal.
in the moment, I need you, are you willing to
we
take?
talked
And they
about that.
put people in there. And so our principals have said they don't know that they could go back to October. And honestly, say yay or nay.
Can they go back to January though? Like that's what we struggle with.
Yes.
They can remember January, but we can't.
But we feel like if we're gonna, it's the 6th, today's the 2nd. So if we have a principals meeting tomorrow, and so if we can kind of, and you don't have to sign anything, but if, we can have our conversations with our principals and say, look, this is what we've passed across and this is what's coming. We need you to, get your ducks in a row.
Well, if they have any ideas on how to do it, we have some ideas, and that'll be in our counter. But
Mhm.
but yes, the fact that it may not have been in an email is
Mhm.
it came up in caucus. Believe me. We need to look at that.
Okay.
We'll come up with something.
Okay.
So the general idea there is that I think we make progress on all of them, even
Good.
though we don't
No,
have a
I
TA.
agree.
So,
Absolutely agree.
do you have anything else? 16th is our next day. We
It
have
is.
2 days after that on the calendar. That is great.
Yes, that is good.
Compensation is on the 16th, or are you?
So my hope is to get in front of the board, and yes, our hope is to do that sooner than later for sure. And again, my intent was to pass it.
I
So
understand.
yes,
And any other articles that you think that you'll be able to ready to counter on?
We can be ready. We can be more ready to produce in caucus if you tell us what you have a counter on.
okay. Right this second,
Yeah.
no, because we were working heavy on
Right,
this.
but I think there's still several that we've handed over.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have them right here. SJBS, leave, working conditions.
Yes.
And then the MOU for planning period was a big one, but that now is back on the table. So,
Right.
okay. See you on the 16th.
Okay. Yes.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody. Drive safe.
All right. Who's locking up tonight for you? Can I have 5 minutes with the team?
Yes, we're going to go over there. It'll take us a few minutes.
Okay,
to-
10.
Yes, yes, you're fine.
Thanks.
You're fine.
10 minutes. Is it you? You should rotate that equitably among, have an MOU.
Hey, are you negotiating for him?